Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other.
I was just telling everyone, man, you're really good at this. We usually don't start these fireside chats without some kind of like technology hiccup, and we got you on like without any issues, so that was super awesome.
Well, thanks, Aum. It's awesome to be here with you in the audience today.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Thanks for joining us, Travis. We just had a great conversation in the green room, and I'm just super excited to have you on the show.
Cool.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm pretty good, thanks. I had a great day here in Salida, Colorado. Spent some time with my wife and the kids, and had a good mountain bike ride, and spent some time talking with endurance coaching clients on the phone, which I really enjoy. And I also got to record a podcast in person. I really enjoy podcasting, and had a great conversation with Megan Hotman, the cyclist lawyer. Maybe another guest for you guys to have, but she's super interesting, doing very important work, in the cycling advocacy space, cycling infrastructure, that kind of stuff. So
definitely
really enjoyed that.
It sounds like an introduction to be made, and that sounds like, oh, did we lose him? Oh, we lost Travis. As soon as I said that, all right, I'm going to send him an invite again. As soon as I said that we're not going to have a hiccup, we had a hiccup. I think I jinxed us, but again, I can't wait to ask him the icebreaker questions, but sounds like Travis had the perfect day there. So, yeah, and I got 2 icebreaker questions today. Let's see. I'm going to try to get him back on the show. For those of you who've been with us on this chat for a long time, this is a pretty normal occurrence and a tradition. So, not even worried about it. There we go. Here he comes. We once had a fireside chat where the person couldn't get on for like 7 or 8 minutes, and it was the most hilarious thing. This is technology. That's technology for you.
All right, man, we're back.
We're back. All right, let's roll. Let's roll with it.
I know that you're training for these 200 milers, Aum. I mean, you're gonna have. I can guarantee it. You're gonna have hiccups in the system doing 200 milers. So just figure it out, whether it's Instagram or running 200 miles.
Exactly. It never always gets worse, as we say,
there
right?
You go, now you're talking.
So before we jump into the conversation, I've got a couple icebreaker questions for you. The first one I'm going to ask will determine whether I keep doing your interview or I'm going to have to drag Jason in here to do it.
Geez. Okay.
Are you ready?
Big pressure.
All right. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Of course.
Oh, heck yeah. You're Team Aum on that. Jason's a hardcore New Yorker, and you can't put pineapple on his pizza.
All righty.
The other question for an icebreaker I had was specific to you. I was looking at the book and I saw like all these Leadville finishes in your family, and I never could put a number to it. There's like 20 from one person, 20 from another, and I was curious. Do you know how many total Leadville finishes there are in your family? Just no idea.
Nope, I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, definitely more than 30, probably pushing 40. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really. I mean, I think I like the idea that the process is the point, and you don't do this stuff because you're trying to tack up the feathers in the cap or whatever it is. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know my uncle Eric Pence. I think he's finished 27 times or 28 or something, and furthermore, he's not doing it, because he's counting or whatever. Like it's just kind of, it's what he does. It's what he likes to do. So he does it.
Exactly. I think that's why we all do it. It's all about the journey and not the destination, and just being out there,
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that I want to dive into before we get into the nitty-gritty of the book is the title, A Mile at a Time.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how you came about that title.
Uh, that's funny when you're working on a book, whether it's early on or in the book proposal process, or often the finalized title. I mean, that's not really finalized until you do the final checkoff of the manuscript with the copy editor at the publishing company. So it's always up for change. Uh, I just, it was that idea of like you're taking this thing one step at a time, and a bit of a a double entendre. You're into ultra running. We got listeners who are into triathlon or running or long distance bike races or whatever you do. Very often the way to make it through is a mile at a time, or at least a segment at the time. I mean, man, you talk about Leadville 100 or any of these long races. If you stand there at the starting line and you think about like the whole thing, I mean, that's like, it's scary as hell, and it'll, like you want to just curl up and get back in your car or whatever. But if you go piece by piece, step by step, a mile at a time, as it were, that's how you can make it through. And then, to branch further out, I think that's a good mindset for raising kids, for navigating a marriage, for building your career, all of these areas of life. And then furthermore, this journey that, me and my family have been on for the last 5 years, navigating Alzheimer's, with which my dad was diagnosed in 2018. I've really realized that journey is one that you must take a mile at a time, and you have to accept uncertainty. You have to know that, like, okay, I'm going to do a bunch of these little things that hopefully add up to make a difference, but we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And really, the only way that we can navigate it is, as it says, a mile at a time, or, a day at a time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, one of the mantras that Jason and I have in doing these events is I can't run 100 miles, but I can run 1 mile 100 times.
There you go, man. That's perfect. Yep.
So, just talking about family in general, one of the things that you said in the book really stuck out to me. It was after Mark's first Leadville finish. He came in, I think it was like 29 hours or something. He got it done, almost got lost going to six.
Mm-hmm.
And you were, I think, 5 years old at the time. And you remember, calling him thinking he was Superman, but then you made this amazing contrast, talking about how Superman, goes away when the job is done. But Mark was there, present emotionally. He was at your ball games. He was there for the family. So talk a little bit about that, like the balance that Mark had between these adventures and like being present for his family.
Yeah. That's a good question, and I think a lot of people have asked me. Or I actually just did a podcast about Father's Day last week, and we talked about like, oh, what have we each learned from our dads, me and the other co-host, and I learned from my dad, just keep showing up, and show up with a good attitude, and be positive, optimistic, and I mean, does that mean that like my dad was perfect or was never hassled by work or whatever? Like, he's just a person too, but keep showing up. So I learned that, and I think this is true for many kids, and maybe especially boys. Like, the father becomes an archetype of father, of manhood, of as we put it in the book, Superman. And I think that's an okay view for kids to have. At some point, hopefully it's more gradual and less of a eruption. But we realize, like, our dads, our moms, our coaches, our teachers, like they're people too. You know, they all have their blemishes, they have their strengths, their weaknesses. You know, sometimes it's like, oh boy, our parents made it look easy, but you know, it's not easy, and it was hard for them as well, which it should be. So yeah, but that view. I mean, it's funny with this Alzheimer's thing 5 years ago, like that diagnosis hit me really, really hard. And especially initially, there was this crazy scrambling to control the uncontrollable, and also the scrambling of like my own identity, because you know, you have this idea, here's this you know, Superman, like, of course, you know, again, you realize strengths and weaknesses and stuff, but here's a guy who's 64 years old and is like super fit and is sharp and has worked his ass off for decades so that he can have a good retirement and, you know, hit the road with my mom with the trailer. Like that was their big dream. This Alzheimer's thing was a big disruption to that, and it challenges, you know, innate beliefs about, you know, hard work, or do good things always come back to good people who treat people well? You know, yes, and maybe not. So, yeah, you know, it challenges a lot of that. It forced me to realize, like, here I am, you know, 35 years old, you know, family, kids, career, whatever. Like, oh, I'm an adult, and I realized, like, now I have to become an adult in a whole new way. And does it mean the fact that my dad has you know, increasingly significant challenges and limited abilities and stuff, does that mean that I can't kind of still see him as Superman? I don't think so. I mean, man, he's still got a special point in my life, and whether or not I'm maybe the one who's more looking out for him, or when we're together, or if he needs, you know, a ton of daily support from my mom, which is true. For me, it's healthy to still remember him in that way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, just, you know, just because you have like struggles that you're going through does not take away from that image. If anything, it shows that person as more courageous, more stronger, you know. And yeah, yeah, it's been a great conversation so far. And I just wanted to go from what we were talking about there, and since we were talking about, you know, Superman, and just talking about like just what it means to, you know, have those fallacies and like to be human, I wanted to get into the topic of mantras, and there were two that really stood out to me. One of them was I don't quit. That was the very first one. Um, and it never always it never always gets worse.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one that gets passed around in the ultra running community a lot, along with
Yep.
relentless forward progress.
Yeah.
So let's talk about I don't quit and what that means to you.
Yeah, and we had a comment here from someone doing their first ever triathlon, Ironman 70.3. Way to go. Good on you. Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Or woman, whoever it was. But yeah, you
Way
know,
to go, Ron.
signing up is often a great start, because that's a scary thing to do. It takes a lot of courage, and you're getting into something that's uncertain, and that's good. I tell my coaching clients, like, man, those nerves, those feelings, that uncertainty you're getting the week of the race, like, that's good. That's a sign that you're alive. You know, and I did a mountain bike race, you know, just a little local race here in Salida, Colorado this week, and like I was noticing those same feelings, and I'm like, shit, I've done like, I don't know, 1,000 mountain bike races, and I'm still having, yeah, just like you said, the fear of the unknown. But that's good. That's a sign that you're pushing yourself and you're living, because a lot of people, they kind of settle in. Pretty soon they're not doing anything, you know, that's scary or that's uncertain. So yeah, as far as mantras, I mean, one we talk a lot about in the book, and that I've been thinking about in life in general, is as fast as we can, as slow as we must. And it's kind of this idea, it speaks to me about nuance and gray area. You know, I went through a lot of my career as an elite athlete, and you know, the mindset was like, I am going to ram this thing home. Like, I am going to win. And if I'm not winning, I'm dying trying. And like, you know, I am going to control this, this thing and make a result happen. And, you know, I mean, is there maybe some truth to that? Is that all bad? Not, you know, not necessarily, but it also, what I'm realizing, hopefully with age and maybe a little wisdom, is like, there's this gray area. There's this in between. Like, you know, it's really important to push hard, do well, work hard, try to control things, whether that's your race result, your speed, your fitness, your professional path, right? Your family, you know, these are really important things that we want to work hard on, but we also, like, we can't control everything, you know? I mean, hey, the pandemic, boy, that was a good reminder. Like, there's a lot in life that's not in your control, and that's, I mean, honestly, my family was kind of living in that mode a couple years before the pandemic with Alzheimer's. We had to, like, accept that here's this big thing that we don't like and we sure didn't want to happen and we don't want to happen, but, like, it's here and we have to accept that uncertainty and navigate it the best that we can. You know, back to, you mentioned that one, I Don't Quit. You know, I think that can be a good story to, you know, to tell ourselves. And I also, in my first book, The Ultra Mindset, one of the chapters was, you know, never quit until it's time to quit, or unless it's time to quit. And again, hopefully that speaks some to the nuance, because sometimes the quitting, or I like to call it re-choosing, because that, you know, for those of us who are maybe recovering perfectionists, like, re-choosing sounds a lot better than than quitting. But sometimes we go too far with, you know, the project, the career, the this, the that, and really the courageous and the wise thing to do might be to re-choose and to move in a different direction. And you know, I think we have cases either way. I think it personally, in a lot of endurance races, I think people sometimes drop out too soon. They think, just like you said, they think, I feel this terrible at mile 30, so at mile 60, I'm going to be twice as bad, and at mile 90, it's going to be 3 times as bad. And, like, you can't even imagine 3 times as bad, because that you would be, you know, in an ambulance or, like, upside down in a porta potty or something. But it might actually get better, and you've probably experienced this, so anyone who's done these long races, you can really be in trouble. Physically, mentally, your legs, you know, your stomach, you could be puking your guts out and having diarrhea simultaneously, and, like, it can actually get better. So, you know, don't give up on yourself, and keep going. And then on the other hand, you know, sometimes again, you've listeners probably heard of the sunk cost fallacy. We've invested so much into the career or the project, or, you know, the season, or, like, the sport, or whatever it is, and it's like, well, maybe the best thing is to re-choose and do, you know, spend your time and energy somewhere else, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and that's a good point that Travis just made. It's one of the things we reinforce as a business as well. It's that, one, like, it's okay to DNF, you know, if you're, yes, like, you know, if you're doing hard things, you are going to fail. And one of our mantras as a business is failure is not terminal. It's the building block to success.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And not crossing, you know, the finish line, whether it's on the race course or the, you know, the professional thing, or, like, you know, I mean, I was lucky enough to get 2 books to come out, but, like, how many other, quote, failed projects that I have that didn't come to fruition because no one saw them, because they didn't come to fruition, like, you know, dozens, right? That's part of the deal. And even in a race, the DNF, we actually talked about that at the end of the book, you know. Maybe we can reimagine that, and that's, you know, again, starting out as an athlete, whatever, in my 20s or whatever, it's like, you know, I am, unless they drive me off the course with a broken leg, I am finishing. And I've come to realize, like, that's not necessarily the best attitude, right? There are, you know, there may be times where, like, it's a good choice to just stop, and that's okay.
Yeah, so it's all part of the process. And you know, everybody's got their DNFs and everybody's got their failures. And it's also, like you were saying before, it's okay to start anew and start a new chapter. And humans, you know, are all about evolution.
There you go.
So, so now, you know, going away from mantras for a little bit, I wanted to dive into the eco challenge that you did in Fiji with Mark. This was, you know, what you sort of called like the last ride in a sense, that experience with him. So just talk a little bit about the eco challenge in Fiji and what that meant to you to be on the team with Mark.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Great question. So, you know, for listeners who aren't familiar, the sport is adventure racing, and you know, it's a niche sport even compared to like triathlon or ultra running, and more or less in an adventure race, we're talking here expedition adventure racing, long distance events. You know, you're talking probably 5 to 10 days of nonstop, round the clock racing. You're trekking, you're mountain biking, you're paddling, you're navigating fixed ropes. You're doing other sports that they throw at you that are unique to that area. You know, it could be horseback riding or riding camels or, you know, stand-up paddle boarding, or like in Fiji we had these things called the thamakau, which is like a ancient Fijian outrigger canoe with a sail that was used by people to colonize the islands in the Pacific Ocean, you know, whenever that was, I don't know, thousands of years ago, like these same boats. So anyway, you're doing all this stuff. You're with a 4-person co-ed team moving together always, you know, you're right together. It's not a relay or anything. And you're also navigating with map and compass. So it's not a marked course, no GPS, no Garmin, no, you know, bike computers with your little turns marked or anything like that. You're figuring out as you go. And it's super dynamic. It's very physical. It's highly intellectual, and it has the team component. And I've been a team sports athlete my whole life. I love that team piece. So anyway, you know, the Eco Challenge in particular was a commercially successful race from 1995 to 2002. My dad and his buddies did 8 of those races during that period. They were created and produced by Mark Burnett and shown on MTV, USA Network, Discovery Channel, etc. And then around you know, 2002, Burnett had also created Survivor and kind of moved over to that and ended up creating The Apprentice and I think Shark Tank and a bunch of, you know, he's kind of like the OG of reality TV. So anyway, the sport of adventure racing continued, and I finished college in '05 and immediately got into it, adventure racing, got a, you know, a good sort of professional deal, which meant that you know, I got paid enough money for a single guy to, you know, live off of in an apartment and to race around the world, and it was awesome. And so the Eco Challenge didn't exist, but there was a world championship. There was, you know, these big races in China and New Zealand and just all over the place that we went to, and I got to compete at a really high level, and, you know, really kind of colored eventually my coaching career and career as an individual athlete and you know, what have you. Anyway, you know, we
Run since 2005. You're young.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, you know, you jump ahead. 2018 comes around. You know, there's these rumors, Eco Challenge is coming back. Burnett's behind it. Bear Grylls is going to be involved, and we realized like this is a real thing. You know, let's do it. So, you know, one thing leads to another, and pretty soon, you know, Dad and I are planning on going to Fiji. And like I said, you know, Dad had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's within the last year, and there's a hell of a lot of uncertainty. There's not a precedent for, you know, older folks with Alzheimer's going out to do the Eco Challenge, but we realized, yes, on the one hand, is there a risk of going for this? Absolutely. You know, it's a risky thing for anyone, and is there an increased risk when you have Alzheimer's? Yes. On the other hand, is there a risk of just kind of throwing in the towel and not going for it? Hell yeah. And it turned out for us that was a greater risk. Like, you know, we got one shot to do this thing and see what happens. And, you know, I told our teammates Shane and Danelle, beforehand. I was like, guys, if we make it to the starting line, I mean, we've first of all, we've won the game, and then second of all, there's no idea what's going to happen. And we are here to work hard and to get this thing done. And we're just going to have to take it as it were, a mile at a time, and do our best. So anyway, we got out there, we had a blast. Getting to race with my dad was just, it was fun. It was dynamic. It was really, really hard, and I think even on the TV coverage, they didn't really show a lot of it was really hard and dynamic, just as far as figuring out how to support things. How do we make sure we stop and get a lot of sleep at night? How do we plan that strategically and logistically? And but overall, it was awesome, and it also became, for me, and I also think for my dad, like a rite of passage. Like it kind of showed us, like, we are ready to navigate this next step together in different father-son roles, very different from what we've had, for the last, again, 36 years. But that's also okay, and we can shift in those roles, and we can do it together and continue to make the most of things.
Yeah, you brought up a very good point about like the rite of passage and like switching roles, in a sense, and like changing the dynamics of your role. So talk about that a little bit, about just the dynamics between you and Mark and how that changed and how that rite of passage was.
Yeah, I mean, my dad always was, and I think still is, to use a triathlon analogy, like the man. He's the man for me, right? And when someone's always been the man, that person who you go to for your inspiration, for your guidance, for your advice, it was like shattering to the foundation for me to perceive and know that there was such a shift like that a lot of that would be gone, and that furthermore I needed to prepare myself, to continue that, to be more of that person for him. So it was, for me, it was finding comfort in taking the lead, and I think for him, and this is probably true, especially for men of his generation, being comfortable accepting help, because that's really, really important, and I think that's something we all need to be comfortable with. But it started with us. I mean, in the Eco Challenge, very physically holding hands with me, guiding him, through the jungle, and both of us being okay with that, and we have become okay with it. And that's not to say that like things are easy or smooth or whatever, because they're not. And this disease progresses, and it's really, really hard, and it's really sad, and we're still trying to, like, you're always trying to figure out what are the next steps, and you don't know what's going to happen. But that rite of passage made me better prepared to continue to navigate it.
What advice would you have to somebody who is dealing with Alzheimer's, or somebody who knows somebody who's dealing with Alzheimer's within their family? Because you talked about it extensively in the book, and I just wanted to give you a platform to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, thanks, Aum. Yeah, you're right. At the end of the book, there is kind of a brief prescriptive section, and we're not trying to be, medical professionals or anything, just, what has maybe helped us. I'll say two things. Number one is early detection, and this is really, really hard, because maybe you're in the position of me, for example, where you see someone and, hey, something's going, there are potential signs of cognitive decline. I cannot stress enough the importance of that early detection or diagnosis and figure out what's going on, because whereas in the past the story was no treatment, no cure, so why the hell would you want to even know anyway? That's not true anymore. We've got two new drugs that were already approved, another that's in the pipeline, all these things we know about diet and lifestyle and supplements and this and that really make a big difference, and they make the biggest difference in the earliest parts of the disease progression. And this is true of Alzheimer's and or other types of cognitive decline. So the point is, have those conversations and have them again. And believe it is going to be hard. It is like, is that an easy conversation to have with someone you love or care about? No. And you're probably going to have to do it many, many times because, like, it's going to take time. And I can't tell you how to do it, but you got to find your own way. And that is, boom, that is courage and heroism right there, initiating those challenging conversations. So you got to, that's number one. And then number two is just engagement. If I was to put it in one word, it's engagement. And I talk about that in the book. You know, a good friend of mine, Tim Weber, who actually is a former coaching client and is an orthopedic surgeon, he works with a lot of older folks who get diagnoses with an injury or an illness or whatever. And I was telling him with the Eco Challenge coming up, how anxious I was, how uncertain, how scared I was. Like, is this, like, I'm going to go do this thing with my dad. Like, is this a good idea? And he said, look, man, the people who I see when they have a really bad injury or diagnosis, the key difference between the ones who do well and don't is engagement. It's staying engaged with that thing or that things, those things. And you know, relationships are a huge piece of that. And we kind of realize, like, hey, here is a thing, man. This is adventurous, and this is travel. This is adventure. This is like, you know, I call it feeding the wolf, right? It's that part of us that's like hungry and competitive and wants to go. Like, this is checking all those boxes, and it's a thing I get to do with my dad. And there's one more chance to do this, right? Like, we gotta go, you know. And it was, boom, it was right there. Like, this engagement, this is worth the potential risk of, you know, an injury or a you know, illness, infection, like whatever. So yeah, that's the one word advice, is just engagement, and also being okay with engagement with that thing, that interest, or maybe it's multiple interests. It's going to look different than it did before, and that's okay. Like, does the fact that you can't, you know, get in your truck and drive across Colorado and go on a 100-mile mountain bike ride mean that you can't be engaged as an athlete? No. I mean, for my dad now, it's like he's got one little dirt road next to the house, and he goes out and he does his repeats up and down that thing every single day, and he can go there safely. There's not traffic. You know, my mom and my siblings and I feel okay with it. It's even then, it's pushing the limit a little, but like, he is engaged and he is pumped, and he could have this attitude of like, I used to go around the world and now all I can do is this, and his attitude, he is like, man, bud, we got to get out there and drive. You got to tell your clients about this. This is the best place to go. Like, you know, it's the best Leadville train around. And so he's right. So anyway, stay engaged. That's my advice.
I love that. Man, I love that so much. And you painted such a great picture of Mark just going up and down, doing those repeats. And it really paints a picture of like something that we hold on to in endurance sports that also keeps us coming back, which is gratitude.
Yeah, man.
And so,
you're right.
Yeah.
And community. And that's a
Community.
huge,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes it's like when I look back and I'm like, oh, me in my 20s, and it was like, oh, the podium and like, you know, the prize money, the sponsors, whatever. Like, that was good. That was a phase, but like, I feel like I wasn't tapped into the value of the community, you know, and I'm glad that I am now. And maybe I'm just saying that, like, if you're listening to this and you're a younger athlete, try to tap into that a little sooner, because it's so important. And maybe that's a good silver lining of the pandemic. Like, races came back, you know, and maybe you experienced this. It's like, holy shit, a race! Like, I get to go and be out with people I like and who share an interest. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped into ultras 3 years ago, and you know, seeing this community and just being a part of it is one of the things that just keeps me coming back. I mean, it's just a very special community.
Yeah,
and
you're right, man.
Yeah, just appreciate being a part of it. So before we dive into the rapid fire, one of the things that I wanted to ask you to cap off the conversation, the meat of the conversation, is what are some key lessons you've learned from Mark that you've passed on to your own children?
Whew. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could write a book about that, and like maybe I kind of did. I sort
You
of
heard it here first.
yeah. But I said keep showing up, and then maybe just briefly, I'm continuing to learn now from my dad that first of all, it's never too late to find happiness. Um, you know, even in circumstances that are really really hard, he's choosing happiness, and I'll say the same for my mom. I mean, she is the true hero of our team, and the person who day in and day out is supporting, both him and her. She's choosing happiness as well, and it's incredibly inspirational. And they're showing me what love is and what it means to truly dig deep for your family, and I'm thankful for that. And then the other thing I'm learning is just it's never too late to help other people. Like, someone can have significantly diminished physical or cognitive abilities or whatever, whatever position you're in, you can still make an impact. And yeah, another comment, double A, you're right there. Support is key. Yeah, it is. It's like that's another another mantra or lesson from the book is just life is a team sport. And we're parts of all these teams, but we all have a chance to be the captain, be the leader, be the person who's pulling for the team in the wind. But we also have times where, in order to make the team stronger, we need to ask for help, and we need to accept help, and recognize our strengths and weaknesses and quirks, and our own oddities, and the fact that the other people on our teams, like, they're not perfect either. So yeah, I keep learning from him all the time.
Yeah. I think we always keep learning from the people around us like that, and that's a great, that's a great lesson right there. Just showing up every day and just choosing happiness. It's be humble at times. I agree. Yeah, I agree with that too, Ron.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely true.
Most of the time, maybe. Although that was another book chapter in the Ultra Mindset is have an ego and use it, but also, like, know when to set that ego aside, that's a lot of the time.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, Travis, and just like with every other fireside chat, we can't end the conversation without doing our fun rapid fire section.
Okay, let's go. I have no idea what these are. We already did the pizza one, so I don't know how we go any deeper than that.
No hard-hitting journalism. No hard-hitting journalism, but there are some fun questions in there for sure. So are you ready for the rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do it.
So when you go out for training, do you listen to music, podcast, or do you listen to nothing at all?
It's a mix. I lot of time with nothing. I mean, you say nothing, but like, I'm listening to nature, man. I love being out, and I'm lucky to, I live in a rural place, and I'm always in the mountains, usually alone. I love listening to it. So yeah. That said, I'm also an audiobook fanatic. I'm kind of a self-help growth junkie, so I listen to all that stuff. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I actually saw my friend on there, Sonia Looney. Boom, shout out to Sonia Looney Show. That's one of my favorite podcasts. I listen to a lot of, like, the cycling podcasts, with just sometimes I laugh at myself, like, how much of a cycling fan I've become. But like, I just, I like it. I like the stories. I like following both the men and the women. So I like the podcast with, analysis, or even like the outcomes podcast where they predict, especially for the tour, like what's going to happen the next day and stuff. So yeah, I listen to all kinds of stuff, and I have a lot of quite a bit of driving time. We live in a little town, and I don't drive much around town, but my kids play soccer and stuff. So windshield time, I'm either talking with my kids, or sometimes let them play video games or whatever, and listen to some more audiobooks. That's where I listen to, like, the deep ones, like the really academic or the Jungian psychology kind of stuff that you gotta listen to you for like 5 hours. All right, I'll stop now. That was long.
That,
that
no,
was
that's
not.
me.
That wasn't a rapid fire answer. Next one, rapid
That
fire.
might actually be the longest answer we've gotten to a rapid fire
Yeah,
question. But
music too.
a
I
very
like music, especially mountain biking. I fire that up. Pandora, like I put it on the Face to Face station. Like that's like a '90s punk rock band. Man, riding down hills, shredding it up. Boom! I love that stuff.
I love it. Do you have a favorite band, or do you just listen to '90s punk rock in general?
Yeah, the like I said, Face to Face, and then there's Pandora recommends stations, and usually I'm like, I don't want to, I want to choose, but one of them, it was recommended. It's called Plush 90s, 90, it's like 90s something, 90s progressive rock or something like that. But that's become one of my favorites, and that's a lot of like Nirvana and like Alanis Morissette, and so yeah, I listen to that a lot too, especially again riding fast on a mountain bike downhill or skiing the back bowls at Monarch here. Ooh, I like that stuff.
Amazing. So the other one I got for you. So now we're going to dive into the food questions.
Oh,
and
okay.
these are pretty between Team Jason and Team Aum too. But although we agree on most of them.
Yeah.
So candy corn, yay or nay?
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
No way.
That stuff is like earwax, man. I mean, I just don't.
Yeah,
I just don't
earwax?
know. And I don't know why they thought making a bacon one was a good idea, but you know. All right, so Peeps, yay or nay?
Peeps?
They're like those sugar-coated penguins.
I'm gonna say nay. I do not like sweet things. I like espresso.
Even Ron says no. Believe it or not, we've had somebody send us like stale Peeps.
Yeah, I like this. I like this stuff. I mean, I'm not like sponsored or anything. This is like it's like bubbly water that tastes really bitter.
Ooh,
called Hoplite.
I love stinking water.
Yeah.
I love
it's sort of like a non-alcoholic beer, but it's like super bitter. I like bitter stuff.
Yeah, I'm a bitter guy too. A bitter fan, not a bitter guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you're not a bitter guy.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So red velvet cake, is it a real flavor or is it chocolate with red food dye?
Oh man, I don't even know if I've ever had that. I like chocolate as long as it's like at least 82% cocoa, but red, that just kind of turns me off. So I have no idea. No comment. Let's put it that way.
I love that. I think that might actually be our first no comment on that.
Yeah.
Are you a cake or pie person?
Nope. Neither one. I am not
okay,
a cake or pie.
No comment on that one too.
I don't like. I don't really like sweet. I'll eat like potato chips or French fries with a lot of ketchup or But I do not. I don't really like sweet stuff.
Ooh, French fries is a good one. Regular fries or curly fries?
No, yeah, both.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Any dipping sauce?
Yeah. Yep. Lots of it, and it's spicy.
All of it. I love it. Yeah. I mean, I love fries. Team potato. I mean, potatoes is a vegetable that never misses,
Yeah. There you go.
Well, that's the end of our rapid fire section. And before we let you go, Travis, I just wanted to give you the platform to just let people know where they can find the book A Mile at a Time.
Wherever books are sold, I would recommend your independent bookstore. Always good to support those. It's on a website that starts with A and ends with Maison. It's on my website, travismacy.com. Click on books, you'll find A Mile at a Time and the Ultra Mindset. You can find my podcast on there, the Travis Macy Show. My endurance coaching information's on there. I love. I used to be a high school English teacher, and I love teaching and helping people, and now I get to teach what I really care about, which is like how to run 100 miles, or how to do the lead challenge, or how to go do some ski mountaineering or something like that. So yeah, it's all there.
Awesome. And guys, if you want to follow Travis and his journey, you can follow him using the username above, Travis Macy. He's on Instagram. And of course, he's got a website, which you just mentioned. So I just wanted to thank you one more time for coming on the Fireside Chat, Travis. This has been an amazing, fun, and just an eye-opening conversation. And it's been great. I appreciate it.
No worries. I'm glad to do it, man. Thanks for having me. Great job setting up a community, and thanks to the listeners for hanging with us here.
All right. Well, you have a great rest of your evening, Travis.
Sounds good, man. You too. See ya.
Bye.